Hello. Today I have a visit of this beautiful soul, KD. Hi, KD.
Hello, how are you?
Thank you. How are you? Can you please tell me about yourself and what you're doing?
Yeah, so I'm Katie Shiflets. I just finished a 16-year career in tech. It was an unexpected career, but very fulfilling and satisfying. And like so many others in 2023, it ended with massive layoffs. Um, and I had been coaching and working with people in groups and individually for the last couple of years as a side business, and that's what I'm focusing on full time now. I primarily work with women who are navigating male dominated industries. It comes with unique circumstances, it comes with unique prices that we pay to stay in those environments because they're very rarely not toxic. And I really work with women to navigate an understanding of what price they're paying and if they're okay paying that price to achieve whatever their career goals are. Because often we do that subconsciously and don't realize the price until later. And when I'm not doing that, I have 4 children, a husband, a couple dogs, and we love being outside and enjoying nature.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing with me your life and what you're doing. Oh, can I ask then how young you are, KD?
I am 40 years young.
Oh, so cool. I am for mom. I have 4 children too, and I also have 2 dogs.
Oh,
So,
how funny. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you look so beautiful and young, so good.
I wish I felt young all the time, but
Yeah, I understand. I feel you there. I feel you. It's our body, huh? It's your body.
it is. It's aging whether we want it to or not. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you think you are 20 or something, but you're
Yep.
not.
Very much so. Yeah. At 26, I could go back to 26. That was a good age.
No, it hurts when you fall down, it hurts.
Have to fall down to get hurt. I mean, like I can just be sitting still. I literally have an injured right shoulder, but I never did anything to injure it. It just is injured. I don't know.
You probably just woke up and yeah, I know. It feels as it
Yeah.
yeah. This was fun. Okay. Even though we were yeah, but this was fun too though. But okay, let us try to go back in. What about mental health, Katie? Katie, what about your mental health
Well,
besides laughter?
I will say it is a lot of mine is tied to these body changes, right, that happen without us thinking about it. Um, so I've always been a big proponent of mental health. I've always been very open that I have therapists or counselors or psychiatrists, depending on the season of life I was in, because I think we just all of us need it. And it's part of getting rid of that stigma is talking about it openly. Um, so I'm in a good place now, I would say, but it's interesting. I would have told you that 10 years ago, too. In reality, what I didn't know was that a lot of my childhood trauma was playing out in my physical body without me being aware of it, um, which is ultimately what forced me. I'll say forced because I really didn't want to go back to a psychiatrist. But because my body was breaking down and the doctors were like, autoimmune disease is a 70% correlation to childhood trauma for women. And they were really like telling me I needed to go deal with that if I wanted to really heal all the parts of my body. So,
So thank you so much for I loved it. Thank you for sharing that humble.
Kids are screaming in the background.
I love chatting with you. It's first time I have laughed so much. I love your style.
We can't take ourselves too seriously in life. That's no fun.
No. And laughing is the best medicine to heal, actually. So,
very much so. Yeah.
And what about inner child healing, KD?
Yeah, so that was something. I mean, I learned when I was in my 20s that my go-to mechanism was compartmentalizing. I was so good at it for so long, I didn't even know that that's what I was doing. And I had a moment in my 20s where I physically felt this crack in my body, and mentally it was like all my little, those cheap wooden treasure boxes you can buy. The visual of that moment was that I had all these little treasure boxes in my brain, and each of them had different colored sand in it. And in that moment, they all fell open and all that sand mixed together. And I remember telling my mom, like, I can't put it all back in its boxes. Like, it's all combined now. I mean, that was part of my surviving my first marriage. It was not a healthy marriage, but I compartmentalized so much that it was like what happened behind closed doors was in that box, and how we were with our kids was in this box, and how we were with our family was in this box, and how we were with our friends was in this box. And most of those boxes were positive, and so mentally it outweighed the negative. And I did not understand in my 20s how, even though I thought they were all separate and I thought that the positive outweighed the negative, that it didn't really. That negative that I thought was in its own box seeped into every part of that relationship. And it was a weird moment for me. And I remember just being in tears. I so badly just wanted all the sand back in its own boxes, because I didn't want to deal with everything that it meant. And ultimately it meant that my marriage was over. And so I went into, I should say I continued that survival mode. Up until that point, I had always lived with an abusive man, my stepdad, my father, my first husband. And then I went into single mom mode. I had 2 kids, and like, there's no time for you in that, and your body does what it has to do to maintain equilibrium. So I did what I had to do. I was in school full time. I was working full time. I was a single mom of 2 kids. And it wasn't until I met my now husband and we ended up getting married. And then all of a sudden, after my 3rd baby, my body broke down. It had been giving me signs over the years, like problems in my joints and things like that. But man, that hormone fluctuation, which is a common time for women for their bodies to go berserks, that's when mine went crazy. And all of a sudden, this super strong body that had gotten me through 30 some odd years of life was completely falling apart. It was disorienting. It challenged my whole view of myself as being this strong woman who could endure anything. And, our traditional Western medicine, I don't know how it is in Norway or other European countries, but America's whole healthcare system is jacked beyond belief. And so my doctor, I love her. I really do respect and appreciate her. But all she could do was send me to a specialist for that problem, and a specialist for this problem, and a specialist for that problem. And they all wanted to put me on trial medication. And I knew that that wasn't the answer. So I ended up finding my own functional medicine doctors, did all the testing, put your body through that whole mess. And in America, I had to pay for that out of pocket because insurance will not cover it. So it was expensive, and it was a luxury that most people here do not have. We were a dual income household, and I could afford to pay thousands and thousands of dollars to get answers. So that led us to Hashimoto's, thyroid problems. And for the first like year, they kept asking me about childhood trauma. And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, it was pretty crazy. And then they pointed me to the ACE test, the acute childhood experiences. My score was 6 or something, which is pretty high. And ultimately, what made it all click was the book Childhood Disrupted. I love research. I love data. I love someone laying out the correlation between things and the cascading effects. And that book did that for me. I was like, oh, I'm texting my brother like, oh my goodness, we're so textbook. You've got heart problems. I've got autoimmune disease. Like you need to look at this. And he hasn't made it to that point where he's willing to go back into childhood. But I will not forget my first appointment with a psychiatrist. I knew I wanted to do EMDR. I felt comfortable that that was probably the best path for me. And she put those paddles in my hand and we tried. And I had taught my body that the moment it went into that experience, I popped myself right back out, usually with humor or laughing or a joke. And she gets to the end of the session and she's like, this is going to take us a long time. And that was not what I wanted. I went into that thinking that I have to do this. Let's get it over with. I don't know why these childhood experiences would be a problem because I never think about them, you know. In my conscious mind, they are not at play. And when she said that, when she said this is going to take us a long time, I pictured this little girl in an attic space, pushing her arms against that door and using all of her body weight to keep that door shut. And I didn't realize like how resistant I was to letting anyone into that space.
Thank you, beloved. Thank you, KD. Thank you so much. Just give me a moment.
Yeah, me too.
So much lovely, so much vulnerable. Thank you. So much honesty. Wow, so much healing. Oh my God. Hallelujah. I don't believe in man-made religion, just to say it, but hallelujah is in my
yeah, I understand that.
Mm.
And I was grateful. I think what she said I needed to hear, not me as the 40-year-old or 30 some odd year old I was at the time, but me as that 6-7-year-old kid. She said, everything you've developed is what allowed you to be successful at this part. And not just successful in that I had a good career and I made good money, but I had a healthy relationship for the first time in my life. Like I was able to open up and love a man who was gentle and kind and like nothing, like no other man I had ever let into my life, you know. And that takes a lot to open ourselves up to be loved like that. And so and a stable, healthy home for my kids, like that kind of success. I had all of it. I mean, I had done enough healing and processing throughout my adult life to not hit the repeat button on some of the things that might have come naturally. But she said all of those things got you to where you are today. She goes, we are not here to deconstruct everything you've built to survive. She's like, all we're here to do is open this door and love on this person and figure out what you need to thrive and not just survive.
Wow.
And I think that that was the words that that kid needed to hear to feel comfortable opening that door, that we weren't there to just tear things apart. We were just there to comfort. And, you know, it's weird to talk about yourself in like child form, but I mean, I don't know that I would have believed it so much if the image that hadn't come to my mind was me as a kid, like instantly when she said that. So it reinforced this idea that we do have these inner selves that are all these different ages that needed different things, you know, that are still longing for those things, and that drives some of our subconscious behavior. And it's
Yeah.
weird to talk about.
No, it's not. It's not. It's actually very correct. It's actually, I call it advanced inner child healing, because it doesn't need to be like you're 2 years old. It can be your 5 minutes ago. So you have all those ages, all those part that needs attention. And yeah, as you said, I'm totally agree with you. So I'm grateful you sharing your point of view. So thank you. Ooh, this was I love this energy here today. It's the first time I have this kind of connection. So I affect you really. So thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah.
And then one last question. Do you have any advice for someone new in this journey?
I think my advice would just be to open yourself up to the process. I do have to admit, I feel like I had an advantage at the time that I was going through this process. My kids were 2, 4, 11, and 14 or something like that. And it made it a lot easier to let myself sit with some of those really hard feelings. And I literally had to give myself permission to let myself cry. You know, I was raised in an environment where crying was never a good thing. You know, I had to look happy, or my dad would get mad that I wasn't happy. And discovered as an adult, I have massive RBF, which explains why I could never understand why he thought I was mad. But I would literally just be walking around with a normal face, and he thought I was mad. And now I know why. I don't know if that translates into other cultures, but in America, RBF is resting bitch face. Yeah, I didn't know if other cultures use that term or not. But it allowed me to sit and just watch my kids and realize that I really was only 3 years old when the bad stuff started to happen with my stepdad. And I can look back on it as an adult with my adult logic brain. But watching my 2 and 4-year-old play, it really, really sunk in that there was no way I made it to 4 years old and saw the world the same way that my daughter sees the world. Because my daughter hasn't gone through those experiences, hasn't had to offer herself up in place of her little sister. Like, there's no way at 4 years old I saw the world the same as another 4-year-old. And it was just things that I had not sat with before. And for many months, my kids would be playing and I would just be sitting there crying. and I had to let myself cry and process all of that. And thankfully, it was during COVID. And so I was at home all the time. I didn't have to turn my camera on at the next meeting if I was all puffy eyed and red in the face. And I don't know that I can quantify the healing or quantify the results of it. But I can tell you that I've almost completely reversed my autoimmune symptoms, not just from the mental emotional healing, but through diets and my latest thyroid scan. I have none of the lesions that I had before. And I do believe that I could have tried to keep fighting it and doing everything in my adult physical power. And I don't think I would have gotten the results that I have right now.
Thank you so much, Katie. Katie, it was so delightful to have you here. And I loved your story. It feels so strange to have the same thing in a comment, and I wish it wasn't, but it
You
but
know,
yeah,
it's way too prevalent,
yeah.
which is why I think what you're doing is so important. We have to talk about these things.
Mm, mm. I'm so grateful for you. I will want to show up here, so thank you, KD. And I love your name, KD. Yes. See you again. Bye bye.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye bye.